remember when I used to sit all the time? We're sitting today because I make my own rules, and it's been a hell of a week. Hi guys, it's Sarah. Welcome back to another video here on my channel. Hope you guys are doing well. Sorry that I missed last week. I ended up getting really sick. For those of you that don't know, I'm a full-time creative and I work in a theater. When I'm not doing this, I'm an actress and a teacher and a designer, and we just hit Tech Week on a very big show, and I'm so tired. So getting sick and then moving into tech has been, as you can imagine, not the most fun. Okay, but we're here, we're back. We're gonna talk about the originals. Look at this cute cup also. It's a freaking boot. What? That's so stinking cute. It's from my favorite cousin's bachelorette party. It was like last hoedown themed. Cute. All right, let's talk about some vampires. So we open with a very cute scene of Elijah and Klaus in the living room together at the governor's house. They're both reading, and Rebekah storms in, and we see that there's just a dead body on the table between the boys. Yeah, it turns out Klaus was like trying to be nice and like give Elijah a peace offering, but Elijah was like, I'm not eating that. So he didn't, and Klaus did because he didn't want her to go to waste. So now there's just a dead body, like dripping blood onto the carpet, and Rebekah has to clean it up. In this moment, Klaus also catches the way that Elijah is watching Hayley. They've been making eyes. They're not subtle, either of them, right? But they're getting worse and worse, and Klaus is locking in on it, which is not good because that's putting everybody into danger, but they're not stopping. Also, Hayley's like very pregnant now. Like, she's showing pregnant belly now. Cammy visits her brother's grave, and we see that somebody has written murderer across it, and she frantically starts scrubbing it off. It's very sad. Going back to the house, we get a fun scene of Elijah kind of following Hayley into the kitchen for breakfast, and she's complaining and being like, you know, I'm eating for two, nobody keeps the fridge stocked, like if somebody could remember to get milk, please, I like to have cereal in the morning. Meanwhile, like while she's ranting and raving, Elijah is like making her bowl of cereal, and he pulls a fresh carton of milk from the fridge, and she's like, oh, you remembered? And he's like, yeah, I promised I'd take care of you. What the frick? I love him. Domestic Elijah is just something else, man. That man was meant to be a family man. Like, come on. He's everything. While this is happening, Rebekah just drags the dead body through the kitchen. Like, I'm talking just has her by the hand, dragging her across the floor through the back of the scene. And Elijah tells us that he is working on a way to unlink Hayley and Sophie. Sophie and Sabine are at the restaurant, and they get attacked by these scary people with like black cloaks covering their faces. They blow powder on them, and the girls just pass out, and they freaking kidnap Sophie. The book Elijah was reading was actually Esther's grimoire, so he takes a few pages out of it. I can't say I recommend doing that, but he takes a few pages out, and he's like, I'm gonna give these to Davina so that she can learn how to do the unlinking spell, and we made a deal, so she's gonna have to, but I'm also gonna kind of trick her into doing it, like, haha, it'll work. Because at this point, everybody's a little nervous about like going against Sophie and the witches, but he's considering the deal null and void because they didn't give him the full information, and they were kind of lying about why they wanted Hayley and everything. So he's just being all hot and sexy and basically saying that like it's null and void, he doesn't care anymore. He doesn't have to keep his word if they won't keep theirs. Klaus is annoyed that Elijah is now in charge and everybody's listening to him because he is in fact pulling the older brother card, and that is why Klaus daggered him. He can say that it was because Marcel was like concerned about the originals and all that. No, bullshit. You just didn't want to listen to your big brother, and you're a whiny little bitch. Marcel is starting to get antsy that Klaus is maybe keeping things from him. He's finding out from Diego that there's just like some suspicious stuff going on, like Klaus is lying about where he's staying and stuff like that. So Marcel decides that he needs to go visit an old friend, which is like the only person he really truly trusts. Who do we think it is? Place your bets. Elijah goes to Davina and she's super happy to see him, but he once again is kind of lying now about why he wants her to learn the unlinking spell. He makes it sound like it's a way for her to practice control, which it is, but also he's just trying to unlink Hayley and Sophie. So he doesn't want Davina to know that because he's afraid she won't do it if she knows. I think maybe she would have, I don't know, but he doesn't trust her enough, so he just tricks her into starting the spell. Cammy goes to see Father Kieran. Remember, he's her uncle. She tells him about finding murderer written on the grave, and it turns out that that happens a lot. Like, she has cleaned it off like 2 times that week, and Father Kieran is like, yeah, I actually also cleaned it up 2 or 3 times, so I'm trying to keep you from finding it, but you keep going before I can get there, and then you see it, and I'm sorry, I know that's distressing. She is like, actually, that's why I'm here. It's not distressing enough. I was so overwhelmed and overcome with all of it, and now I just like feel normal and like I don't care about it anymore. And he says, well, yeah, you're healing, like you're working through your grief. That's normal, but she hardcore believes that it is not, and something is wrong. Klaus is there listening, and he's a little concerned because remember, his hope was that taking away her pain was going to lead to her feeling better, and instead now she's like sad and broken and she feels really empty. Agnes, the crazy witch that tried to kidnap Hayley last time, she is the one that now took Sophie. The witches under Agnes are trying to figure out how to kill the baby because they believe the prophecy that Sabine told them about how the baby will bring the end of witches. So she takes like a giant needle and injects Sophie with something, and Sophie freaks out when she does it, but she just like stabs her in the neck and injects her with it anyway. Elijah and Klaus find Sabine in the restaurant, so she didn't get kidnapped, they just knocked her out too and then took Sophie. When they ask her what's going on and who took her, like where did Sophie go, what's wrong, she doesn't want to turn on Agnes because Agnes is the only elder left in the coven. That feels insane. I think because Marcel and the vampires killed all of the ones that were like working on the ritual when they, got Davina away from everything. So the elders are the only ones who can perform the rituals, which means Agnes is the only one left that can like complete the harvest, complete the reaping. So if something happens to her, it will be very bad. Elijah has such a sexy moment here where while Sabine is trying to like explain this to him, he goes, oh, rituals? You mean like the harvest rituals? Yes, you'd be astounded by the things I know. Please, God, I can't with this man. He got me feeling some type of way in these episodes. So Marcel goes down to the garden and he finds Thierry. He is not fully desiccated, but it's like on the way. So he's graying out. He's got the veins going on. He tells him that he's the only one that he's ever truly trusted, and he finally wants to listen to what T has to say about Klaus, and then they can talk about maybe letting him out. Rebekah and Hayley are hanging out at the house, and they have this moment where Hayley goes, you know, when I first met you, I thought you were a bitch. And Rebekah's like, oh yeah, a lot of people say that when they first meet me. And Hayley's like, no, I still think that you're a bitch. I just kind of like that about you now. And I was like, girl, you know what? Me too. Maybe we agree on 2 things. So Rebekah is planning to leave because it really hurts her feelings that no matter what, Elijah and Klaus always have this like brother bond and they seem to get along. So she only ever came to New Orleans to check on Elijah and make sure that he was alive. And now that she knows that he's fine and he's about to be lads with Klaus, she doesn't care anymore and she's ready to go, which makes Hayley sad because they were kind of bonding. And if Rebekah leaves, Hayley will be like the only girl in the house. Hayley ends up with a little mark on her neck from the needle because remember, whatever happens to Sophie or Hayley happens to the other one, and she like breaks out with a fever and Rebekah's like, something's deeply wrong. Elijah and Klaus find Sophie and they let her free because she's still like chained up when they get to her. She explains that the needle is a cursed object and this coven specifically like works with those. I don't remember ever really seeing those in TVD, but they talk about there being like quite a few of them in this part of the universe. This one is called the Needle of Sorrow, and it is made to literally like up a woman's internal body temperature so that the baby dies in the womb. She mentions seeing Agnes use a similar object on Sean, Cammy's twin brother, and Klaus is like, oh, you don't say. Turns out I hate Agnes and I'd like to murder her. Elijah goes ahead and just tells Sophie that they need to figure out how to break the unlinking spell because the deal is off. Back in the garden, Marcel tells Thierry that he can't pardon him because that would make him look weak. So even though he admits he's in the wrong, he's not going to actually do anything about it. But he says that if T can give him information, maybe they can let him out by Mardi Gras. So T is like, yeah, okay, I kind of understand where you're coming from on that. Also, you're an idiot. Klaus has been playing you this entire time. And he just lays out like a timeline of all the shady shit Klaus has been doing and points out all the ways that he's been lying. And Marcel is like, you know what? It's starting to make sense. I should have listened to you. My bad. The humans, who call themselves the faction, have a meeting with Father Kieran because remember, he's kind of like the go-between between the humans and the witches and the vampires. So they all complain about how annoying Marcel and the witches are being. And then Klaus shows up and interrupts the meeting. He actually wants them to find Agnes for him, and he tells Father Kieran that he should definitely want to find her, seeing as how she's the witch that hexed Sean. Which Father Kieran didn't know that that was like for sure a thing, which is why he didn't tell Cammy, because Cammy, as far as he knows, doesn't know anything about any of this. Kieran says that they're going to need a little while to decide if they want to help Klaus or not, and Klaus just starts like screaming in his face, just like instantly, just immediate rage explosion as he does. And it's so funny because there's quite a significant height difference between the two of them, and Father Kieran just straight laughs in his face. No fear, just laughs in his face. I was like, this is incredible. Even Klaus is like, wow, it's kind of hot that you know exactly who I am. And yet you're not even a little bit scared. Okay, you have an hour. I'll be back in an hour. Make your decision by then. The second he leaves, Father Kieran turns to everybody and is like, find Agnes right now. I'm going to kill her myself. So that's not good. Davina is working on the unlinking spell. And look, honestly, I'm just a little concerned about how this coven teaches their younger witches, because like she doesn't even know how to say phasmatos correctly. Like I don't understand what was going on there with her. Elijah brings Sophie home, and immediately Sophie's like, Rebekah, go get me these herbs. We need them to help Hayley get better. Which is not making Rebekah feel loved and appreciated, let me tell you. And then Marcel catches her snooping through Katie's shop, stealing the herbs, and things get heated, but she runs away again. Klaus steps in to stop Father Kieran from killing Agnes himself, and then he takes Agnes to the church. He shows her the needle, and he's like, undo the curse, or I will show you things worse than death. And once again, she just looks at him and is like, sorry, it can't be undone. Like, you can't just undo curses. That's not how they work. Sure enough, Hayley is burning up. Her fever just keeps getting worse and worse. They need to put her in the pool. By the way, there's a pool at the governor's house. I feel like I mentioned that offhandedly in the last episode. There's a pool in the governor's house, okay? So they need to get her in the water to cool her down. And Elijah takes off his suit jacket and just jumps in his shoes and pants and shirt. How am I supposed to be normal about that behavior? Sophie says, get her in the water. And he just freaking jumps in and then grabs Hayley and pulls her in with him. And then Sophie is like, okay, nice, excellent, now hold her. It's a natural way to slow her heart rate down. Elijah is fighting for his life, let me tell you, but he just like cradles Hayley to his chest anyway. Davina is still struggling with the unlinking spell, right? But then suddenly she gets a little witchy boost and she tries it again and it works, and she's so proud. And honestly, I'm proud of you too, girl. It looks like you had no training going into that. Glad that you figured it out. Hayley's in the pool with Elijah, struggling to breathe, right? Like, she is full panic. It's not good for her. So Elijah is like, no, it's okay. Focus on my voice. Breathe with me. You're gonna be fine. I've got you. It's okay. Davina finally finishes unraveling the knot. Sophie and Hayley scream at first and like get weird, and then all of a sudden everything's fine and they're just not linked to each other anymore and the spell's broken. Yay. So Hayley gets out of Elijah's arms, and then they're just sort of awkwardly standing in the pool together, soaking wet, just like looking at each other. Rebekah is back now, and she sees the way they're looking at each other, and she's like, okay, I see what's going on. Sophie begs Elijah to stop Klaus from killing Agnes, because if that happens, then they won't be able to do any big spells, as we've said. So Elijah calls Klaus and is like, look, I know you have Agnes, just wait for me to get there, okay? Just don't do anything until I get there, just wait. He hangs up and he says to Sophie, I give you my word that my brother will not harm Agnes. And Sophie's like, oh, thank God. Me watching this though, I was like, interesting word choice, babe. Oh no! Hayley gets out of the pool and she tells Sophie that she understands why she did what she did, but if she ever goes after the baby again, she will kill her herself. Rebekah catches Elijah once he's changed before he can go head to Klaus, and she basically tells him, like, look, I'm leaving. I can't do this. I can't watch you just like go back to being his brother. It's just too much for me. I don't want to be connected to him. I just want to be free. She cries, and he does ask her to stay because he wants them together as a family, but she just can't do it. And so he's like, okay, then go. You're already free. It's okay. And he gives her a kiss on the cheek, and that's like their goodbye. Rebekah goes to say goodbye to Marcel next, and he is basically just like, oh, so you're running. Things get a little annoying and you just leave town. And she's like, no, I just don't want to do this anymore. Why does no one understand that? And he's like, why did you come here if it wasn't so that I could convince you to stay? She goes to leave, and then he catches her and kisses her, and they have a crazy vamp hookup like in the open courtyard. Like, this is a compound where people live. Y'all need to pick a room. There are so many of them. Back at the church, Klaus is still messing with Agnes, and he goes to kill her. But Elijah shows up and tells him to stop. He says that he gave Sophie his word, and if Klaus wants his forgiveness, then he won't make him break it. So Klaus lets her go, and he's just like, gosh, Elijah, you always spoil my fun. Elijah goes, oh, not necessarily. And I started screeching. I love knowing him so well, y'all. I was feral. So yeah, he quickly rips the hearts out of all the men in the room with them, and then he grabs Agnes by the throat, and he goes, I said you would not die by my brother's hands. I said nothing of my own before killing her. Klaus is just standing there grinning, and Elijah just strides away, and I love this man. I love this man so much. So Marcel and Rebekah are now in her room. She's been gone, years and years and years, and he's never changed anything about her room because he says he was hoping she would come back to him. So she begs him to just run with her because she's like, you're not gonna be happy here. Like, whatever's happening with Klaus, it's just gonna get worse. Things are not gonna be safe. You need to come with me. He refuses though, because he doesn't want to give up on the city and all the things he's built. So even though he does clearly want to be with her, it's not enough. She leaves an apple with him, and this is when he's like, oh my God, they're at the governor's house because there are orchards on that land. So we watch as Marcel is like, I need to go over to the governor's house and check it out. The OG spy for Klaus that has been working with Marcel, his name is Josh, all right? He's gonna become important now. So he shows up to the house and warns Hayley that Marcel has figured out where they're staying, right? She makes him leave, and then there's another knock on the door, and when Hayley opens it this time, it's freaking Marcel. Klaus goes to see Cammy, and he tells her the truth about what happened to Agnes and Sean and what went down. She actually freaks out on him and slaps him for killing Agnes, which confuses him because he's like, it was a gift for you. She just continues to rage at him, and she says that somehow, some way, she's gonna break the compulsion that he's put on her. And when she does, he will regret ever having laid eyes on her. I was like, damn, girl. Put him in his place. Marcel finds a ragged Klaus after this encounter with Cammy out on the streets, and he says, I stopped by your house and you weren't there. And Klaus is like, oh yes, I left the hotel a while ago. And Marcel's like, not the hotel, buddy. The governor's house you've been secretly staying in. Did you think I wouldn't find out? We see that Elijah is in the house currently looking for Hayley, but she doesn't seem to be there. So Klaus is trying to get away from Marcel, and he's basically just like, oh yes, we moved there because there's so many of us together now. We should have you and Davina over for dinner sometime. And Marcel's like, I look forward to it, bro. They separate, and Elijah calls Rebekah looking for Hayley. Just as Klaus comes in behind him, and Elijah has to be like, what did you do? She's gone. Marcel hosts fight night to give his nightwalkers a chance at getting closer to earning a daylight ring. Klaus and Elijah interrupt the fighting and threaten to kill everyone in the room, including Marcel, if they don't get Hayley back. Marcel's like, yeah guys, I did not take her, but I'm happy to help look for her. But if he doesn't have her, who the hell does? Because she's missing. So we cut to Hayley waking up in the back of a truck, and it's freaking Tyler Lockwood. I was not prepared. I've never been so happy to see him in my life. I was like, babe, what are you doing here? Is this what you were getting up to? Oh my God. He's still a hybrid at this point. So he just throws her over his shoulder and like takes her into the woods. They've gone deep out into the bayou, and we can assume that this is like werewolf country. He's livid and super concerned that she's for some reason living with Klaus. He explains to her that he's figured out that she's from an old werewolf family, which we already knew because Klaus like recognized the birthmark on her shoulder. So he tells her that he found like the rest of her family, and they are living out in these woods, basically like in the swamp, because they've been hunted by the vampires for years and most of them are gone. Klaus and Elijah work with Sabine to find Hayley. She finds her, and when they realize where she is, everybody's kind of like, oh. So she went after her family? Uncool. The boys are super catty with each other because they're both like really antsy to get her back, and they both also like, I mean, Elijah likes her. Klaus is just in it for the baby. I don't think he really cares about Hayley at this point. Maybe he will grow to, but he doesn't right now. He just doesn't want Elijah to have her because that's his child in her, and that makes her his. Josh, the spy for Klaus, is kind of like sulking, and he's trying to get closer to Marcel, but it's not really working because he doesn't really get along with the other vampires very well. He's not into the fighting. He's not really even into like the being a vampire side of things at all. He's just kind of a little nerd who likes to dance, and we knew that already about him, but it's really sad because the other vampires are kind of like jockey and like, you know, tough guys, and then there's just Josh, and he's like, I don't want to be here. Mom, can you come get me? I'm scared. We saw this coming, but Marcel has figured out that Josh was working with Klaus, so now he's in terrible danger. Out in the woods, Klaus and Elijah are now having a proper fight over Hayley. Klaus is like, I know you like her. I can see how you look at her. I know something's going on between you two. And Elijah's like, maybe I'm just the only one who treats her like a person, brother. You kind of just act like she's a little baby incubator for you, and maybe she doesn't like that. Klaus catches Tyler's scent, and he's like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. We get a nice little flashback reminder of Tyler being sire bonded to Klaus, the nightmare that went down with like Caroline, the fact that Klaus had to then kill all of his hybrids because Tyler helped them break the sire bond. Yes, all of that. Oh, and also this is when Elijah finds out that Klaus killed Tyler's mom, and he's not happy about that. He's quite disappointed. Marcel takes Josh over to Davina and has her remove the compulsions set in place by Klaus because he doesn't want to kill him. He actually just wants to keep Josh and use him as like a double agent spy and turn him on Klaus. Hayley thought that the wolf that was watching her, that seemed to be like protecting her these past few weeks, she assumes that that must have been Tyler since only hybrids can turn at will, and he's like, no girl, it was not me. And then Tyler brings in this other guy. I want to say his name was Dwayne. That feels right. Dwayne's not super important, but he comes in with Tyler and they stab her in the stomach and take some of her blood. I was not ready for this. Okay, Tyler gets so aggressive and scary in this scene. I was like, who are you? And what is going on? What's happening right now? And then Tyler just stabs Dwayne in the neck with the needle, gives the blood to him, and then snaps his neck. I was like, Tyler, what is the plan right now? What is going on? Rebekah did not leave town, just like we knew she wouldn't. So she storms over to Marcel and throws him on the ground and is gonna beat him up. And he's just like, you're so hot when you're angry. Like, okay. She's disgusted with herself because she feels like he used her to get information about where they were staying, and that's how he found the house and like took Hayley. But he swears again that he didn't take Hayley. He promises her that he would never, not in 1,000 years, hurt her. But he broke her trust, so now she needs him to prove it. Tyler tells Hayley that Dwayne was actually a volunteer, and they are trying to figure out if the baby's blood can make more hybrids just like Klaus. because Tyler says that a witch told him that the baby was going to give Klaus the chance to make yet another hybrid army. So now everybody's a little afraid. So Dwayne wakes up and Tyler's like, okay, feed off of Hayley, please. She's pregnant, Tyler. Oh my God. He lets Dwayne bite Hayley on the neck, and then sure enough, yeah, he does turn. So it does work. The baby's blood makes hybrids. We get a really unexpectedly cute scene of Josh and Davina hanging out in her room. The spell that she has to do to remove the compulsion is like super painful. So he's in a lot of pain, and they're kind of taking a break from it, and they just bond over being young and their lives just going to shit. And this is around the time I started going, oh, I'm nervous about you, buddy, because we were spending an alarming amount of time with him. And I was like, I feel as though he is going to die soon. Tyler comes back inside the little shack where they've got Hayley. It is very clear that he's like, all right, the baby must die. So he's going after pregnant Hayley. She stabs him, and then Dwayne comes running in and he's like, what's going on? And Tyler's like, we have to kill her. And then Hayley says, no, Dwayne, you don't understand. Like, you have to help me. He's gonna kill me, Dwayne. So that makes Dwayne fight with Tyler. So it's almost like the sire bond now runs from Hayley to the hybrids. Interesting. So Tyler and Dwayne fight, and then Tyler kills him for real, so he is dead now. Hayley runs out into the woods and hides behind the world's smallest tree. I was like, girl, be so for real right now. You're not even partially hidden. Elijah shows up and they hug, and then she's like, hold, before we go to Klaus, I need to tell you what the baby's blood can do. And Elijah's like, that doesn't feel like a good sentence. I don't think I'm gonna like the rest of what you have to tell me. Tyler is out hunting Hayley, and instead he runs into Klaus. Klaus asks what Caroline would think of the person that Tyler is becoming. The answer is, she would not be happy, Klaus. You're correct. Tyler is like, it doesn't matter what she thinks because she's never gonna stop hating you. And then Tyler runs off and Klaus chases him. So now they're playing cat and mouse in the woods. Marcel takes Rebekah down to the garden, and he's like, this is where I keep the men that disappoint me. I just put them here and they desiccate for hundreds of years. Isn't it hot and sexy? And Rebekah's like, sure. And Marcel says that actually originally it was supposed to be something else. So he bought this land and he drew up plans and he was gonna build a house for him and Rebekah. And this is like underneath the foundation of the house because he stopped working on it when she left, and his plan was to like continue working on it when she finally came back, but she never did. And this is when he finds out that Klaus daggered her like shortly after they left, so she couldn't have come back even if she wanted to. Marcel is basically like, you're gonna have to pick. Do you want me, the man who's only ever wanted to give you everything that you've ever wanted, or do you want your brother, the man who takes everything from you every chance he gets? She's really scared because she does clearly love Marcel and she wants to be with him, but she's like, Klaus will kill you just out of spite because he's an asshole, as we know. And Marcel is like, not if we get rid of him first. Hayley is convinced that Klaus must have known about the baby's blood, and that's the only reason why he's like started to care about her or care about the baby. And Elijah is kind of like, okay, even if that's true, and it probably is, my intentions are the same, and I care about you, and I want to protect you, and I want to protect the baby. Okay, you're part of our family, and I'm not going to let anything happen to you. Tyler and Klaus get into a brutal fight. It was crazy, and it's quite a long scene. It was wild seeing Tyler like that. Okay, he's not in a whole lot of fight scenes, and this was a really good one. I was super into it. They have such similar like yapper energy though when they fight. I'm like, if y'all could turn into dogs that match your personalities, you'd probably be like real skinny Dobermans or like little like slightly tall Chihuahuas. So Klaus shoves him up against a tree and grabs him by the heart. Tyler begs for death. He's basically just like, you're never gonna break me, okay? So go ahead and just kill me. It's the only thing you can do. But this is unfortunately how Klaus realizes that Tyler wants to die, and he's like, so killing you would be like a mercy. It'd be like what you want. Instead, I'm gonna let you go. And he like lightly compels him, and he's like, spend the rest of your life remembering that you mean nothing to me. And he just freaking leaves him there. Tyler, baby, I'm sorry, just go home. Just go home, go back to Mystic Falls. Go back to Caroline. You gotta stop this. So Rebekah and Marcel are still talking about, like, let's get rid of your brother if he's such a problem. And Rebekah is like, he's an original, dumbass. We can't kill him. If we kill him, we kill you. We kill every vampire he's ever turned. That's a terrible plan. And Marcel did not know that that would happen if you kill an originals. No one told him. So he's like, okay, that's horrifying. New plan. What if we just lock him up in the garden? And then that gives Davina time to live and die. The baby can come and go. Hayley will live and die. We can have a long, happy life together. Let's just do that. Klaus meets back up with Elijah and Hayley. He found the body of Dwayne. So now he knows that somebody made a hybrid, and he's like, anybody want to tell me how that happened? Because he had no idea about the baby's blood, right? No idea. And I believe him at this point. Maybe he did know, maybe he was lying the whole time, but I feel like he would have told somebody. As I said, he's a yapper. I don't think he could have kept that secret for this long if he did know. He's really hurt that they assumed that he was in this for like impure reasons. And Elijah is like, oh my God, come the fuck on. You told me yourself you only cared about the baby because you're a king who needs an heir, okay? Don't get off the high horse, okay? And Klaus is just like, oh, you would like me to be the bad brother? Say less, babes, I got you. Elijah tries to apologize and Klaus is just like, we're done with that. And he bites Elijah. It won't kill him, but I was not happy about it. Davina finishes helping Josh, so he's completely free of Klaus's compulsion now, and then she has to tell him that Marcel wants her to also make him forget about her because the less people that know about Davina, the better. And Josh is like, no, I don't want to do that. We just became friends. And they pinky swear on it that he won't tell anybody that he knows about her, and I was like, oh, frick. You're doomed, buddy. Elijah and Hayley are looking through the Wolf Shack house for clues. He is getting sicker slowly. Like, the bite's not going to kill him, but it is going to make him hallucinate and stuff. All the normal symptoms are going to happen. He's just not going to die. Hayley goes, should you maybe put some ointment on that or something? And I was like, the brain rot is so real. These little shits will never leave me. They have a little conversation about how everybody in their families has done bad things because remember, like, she was abandoned and stuff. But she doesn't ever want Elijah to compare himself to Klaus. She goes outside to get some air because things continue to get steamier and steamier with the two of them. Every time they're left in a room together, they're like, is now the time we make out? Is it happening? On the front porch of the little shack, she finds a Bible. It's beautiful. I want to say it was like purple or blue. And it's got family names in it dating back through the decades, including somebody named Andrea that has a birthday with Hayley. So that's maybe Hayley's name. Klaus tells Rebekah, oh, don't worry about Elijah. I left him and Hayley in the swamp after I bit him. So he's going to have a fun couple hours hallucinating, since he wants to take my baby from me. And Rebekah's just like, this is why I wanted to leave town, please. So now that Elijah has annoyed him, he's like, Rebekah, sweetie, I need your help. Okay, you're the perfect little pawn to use in my game against Marcel because he loves you and he'll never see you coming. And she's like, why would I help you? You just admitted to biting our brother and subjecting him to hours of like psychological and physical torment. And he hits her with, you're my family, aren't you? So he knows that she's been sneaking around with Marcel, but she does, in fact, gaslight girl boss gatekeep him. And she's like, Marcel thinks you guys are fighting, okay? He thinks that you need to make up and everything will be fine. You're being paranoid. He is so scary in this scene. That I have a note that says, like, he's so scary, and then girl, you need to run and run quickly. So he must have been really being nasty in this moment. Yes, so Tyler did not go home. He did not listen to my instructions. He is now with Marcel, and he's basically planning to continue turning on Klaus and give up the information about the baby and the hybrids, which puts Hayley in extreme danger. Rebekah opens this episode by going to Father Kieran seeking confession, and she hits us with this banger of a line. I am a liar, a betrayer. I have conspired against my own blood, and I doubt even your God could save me. I was like, girl, yes. Then we cut to Rebekah and Klaus having breakfast, and he is like draining one of their maid's arms into his goblet for breakfast food. You could just eat the pancakes like your sister. You don't have to be weird. He swears that he would never ever bite Rebekah the way that he bit Elijah, and he will always choose to dagger her instead. She tells him there is something fundamentally wrong with him and leaves the room. My baby Elijah is sick as hell. Hayley tries to give him something to drink to like help settle his stomach, and he just throws it up immediately. And then he's like, forgive me, please. He's so cute. She tells him to remind her to kill Klaus once he's better, and he goes, remind me to tell you to get in line. He begs her to leave him because even though the poison's not going to kill him, it is going to make him hallucinate. He's probably going to talk crazy and maybe admit that he thinks she's really hot. And she's like, no, Elijah, I can't leave you. The blonde wolf that has been like watching Hayley through the woods secretly is back again, and we see that she has like a burned area on her shoulder, implying that her birthmark has been like removed. Marcel introduces Tyler to the vampire gang, so he meets Diego and Josh, and he explains to everybody that Tyler is going to help them beat Klaus, and he knows it's going to be dangerous and people are going to get hurt, so if anybody would like to leave, they need to do it now, but nobody does. Tyler gives a whole breakdown about what's going on with Hayley and Klaus and the baby, and how Klaus is definitely going to make more hybrids and they all need to be nervous because they're in terrible danger. And then Rebekah strolls in, which terrifies everybody, but she swears that she wants to help and she wants to hear the whole story too, because she also doesn't want Klaus to be able to make any hybrids. And then she's like, one more thing, and she breaks Tyler's neck, sits down in his empty seat, like just drops his body to the ground and walks over him and sits in his seat. It's just like, let me make it perfectly clear that we're not hurting the baby, only Klaus. We cut to Klaus having a meltdown, and Cammy is just like typewriting away all of his little secrets because she is writing his memoirs, you know? And he sounds crazy, 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 crazy. Like, he needs to be put away. Something is fundamentally wrong with him. Thankfully though, Cammy calls him on it and she's like, do you understand how deranged you sound? Acting like literally everyone in your life is out to get you. He wants to dagger his siblings again, to just be rid of them and be alone for a few centuries because he thinks maybe that would help with his mental state. And Cammy's like, you know, actually, I think you're just the one responsible for your own unhappiness. She's like, you compel me to talk to you because you say that I'm the only one who understands you, but then you compel me to forget about what we talk about because you don't actually want me to perceive you full time and you're scared of it. You find a little drawing of a design on her desk and he's like, what is this? Because it looks, oh, you know what it looks like? It actually looks a lot like, for any of my Baldur's Gate people, it looks an awful lot like Astarion's scars on his back. It's like a circle with all these little weird lines coming off of it. And Cammy's just like, it's nothing, okay? It's just a tattoo design. Leave it alone. See, you're paranoid. Marcel and the others are preparing a spot for Klaus in the garden. He's gonna keep him locked up for 52 years, which is how long he originally daggered Rebekah for, when he like daggered her in front of Marcel and then was like, do you want to turn or do you want to undagger her and live with her while you're a human? She says she regrets not doing this sooner and they kiss. Elijah's just getting worse. Now he's like writhing in the bed, having nightmares. Hayley comes in trying to comfort him and he like grabs her arm and calls her Celeste, which really upsets her. She's like, oh, whoa, buddy, what the heck? Because he gives her a vision accidentally of like what he's seeing, which is like this beautiful woman. I'm pretty sure she's the same woman that was with him in the hallway when I said before that he had a girlfriend. I think that's the same woman. I'm like 99% sure that's the same lady. She's like in a tub and we see him like come into the room and like they're getting flirty and stuff. And when Hayley tells him that like, oh, Celeste was really, really hot, he's like, did I let you into my thoughts? That's unacceptable behavior. We can't be doing that. You do not need to know what's going on in there. He tries to like get up and leave, but she's like, no, it's okay. None of this is your fault. You're sick and I'm taking care of you. Everything's fine. And then he goes, we're being watched. And it turns out the blonde wolf lady is like outside way too close to the shack. She's like peeping in the windows and Hayley runs out and tries to catch her, but she runs off really quickly and Hayley doesn't chase her. Klaus goes to Josh, upset about what's happening with Marcel. Josh lies, not very well. He immediately runs back over to Marcel and is like, I'm in terrible danger. Help me. He says that Klaus thinks that Marcel is the one that stole the silver daggers because he doesn't know that Hayley took them and gave them to Rebekah. Marcel is like, relax and breathe. You're gonna be fine. He's not gonna be fine. I don't trust that we're keeping Josh past a couple more episodes, okay? Anyway, Marcel sends Josh back to Klaus and is basically just like, so Marcel does have them, but he's on red alert and there's no way I'm gonna be able to get them from him. But he does say that the compound is gonna be empty for a date that night that Marcel is planning. Klaus leans into Josh and is like, thank you for this information. By the way, if you ever betray me, I will destroy you. So you see what I mean? I'm worried about Josh. Father Kieran is praying at the church. Klaus comes in and talks to him. He tells him that he has in fact been using compulsion on Cammy and she is not doing well. And he wants Father Kieran to convince her to leave the city because he would do it himself, but he thinks that it should be her choice. He doesn't want to compel her into leaving. Yeah, he just really loves when a hot blonde puts him in his place. So he just thinks that they should give her the chance to leave before proper war breaks out because tensions are rising still between the witches and the humans and the vampires, and New Orleans is about to get real freaking messy real quick. Elijah is still hallucinating Celeste. We see a couple more flashback memories that he's having. As we already know, Klaus was being a menace at this time, and Elijah was basically like, you know, honey, you're a witch. Can't you just put a spell on him or something? Because I'm really worried that our dad's gonna come find us because he's just being reckless and nothing I do is working. And Celeste was like, oh, sweetie, it would take 100 witches to get rid of him, and you're the only one he listens to anyway. Hayley has to watch him then make out with Celeste in the memories, and he tries to stop doing that and pull away from her, but he can't control what he's showing her. His powers are all over the freaking place right now. Once again, he begs her to just go because he's so afraid that she's gonna get in trouble for helping him, since Klaus already thinks they like each other, and this is just kind of proving it, and they keep ending up in these awkward situations, and Hayley's just like, no, I'm not leaving you. Klaus trusts Josh and goes after Marcel, believing that the compound is going to be empty. And then when he gets there, he realizes that Rebekah has turned on him. All of the other vamps show up and surround him, and Klaus is not scared. And then more vampires show up and surround him, and he's a little nervous. In the shack, Elijah starts begging Celeste to forgive him, and Hayley's like, oh God, what's he gonna show me this time? We see Klaus doing a duel with some humans where he's just killing them because his vampire reflexes are so much stronger than theirs. Elijah comes and begs him to stop, and Klaus is like, oh, you don't need to be worried about that. I blamed all my recent killings on the witches. So now all the humans are rounding the witches up and killing them. And he did this because he can't stand that Elijah is with Celeste and that he's happy, because Klaus doesn't know happiness and he doesn't like seeing anybody else have the things he wants. So Elijah shoots him. And then Elijah in the present sits up in bed screaming. When Hayley tries to help him, he thinks that she's Klaus and he starts strangling her up against the wall. The blonde shows up and stakes him, saving Hayley. Klaus drops a gold coin on the ground and is basically the first person that picks up that coin is pardoned by me, and when I kill all of the rest of you and take back what's mine from Marcel, you'll be safe and you can be part of my little kingdom. None of them go for the coin, even when Marcel is like, no, go ahead. Does anybody want the coin? Go get it. They attack Klaus on Marcel's command, and at first, Klaus is fine. He's ripping his way through them and everything seems to be going well. And then some of them pull out chains and they overwhelm him and get him on the ground and start beating his ass. We've never seen Klaus get his ass kicked like this before. Rebekah's uncomfortable, but she watches it anyway, kind of standing beside Marcel okay, I guess we're doing this. We're really doing this. And then Klaus activates his werewolf side and calls on that extra strength, and it's a massacre from then on out. So Rebekah realizes that they're gonna lose and this is not gonna work and Klaus is too strong, and she's like, Marcel, you have to pick up the coin. This will stop the fighting, but it will also mean that Marcel has given up his control over the city and he has pledged his allegiance to Klaus. Kieran begs Cammy to leave town and she tells him that she just can't. She found the tattoo design, right? That she told Klaus was a tattoo design. It's not. It's actually like a weird little twin code that she had with Sean growing up. And she doesn't know what it means, but she knows that she needs to figure it out. The blonde wolf lady is named Eve. She tells Hayley that Marcel found and killed most of their family. Then he had a witch curse the remaining members to be like flipped werewolf-wise. So instead of being humans every day except for the full moon and then turning into wolves uncontrollably, they are always wolves and they can only be a human on the full moon. Elijah comes out. He's all better now. No more fever. And he's super happy that Eve is there and Hayley found a family member because that's why she wanted to go to New Orleans in the first place. So they need to go home, but Hayley's like, I promise Eve that I'll come back and see you again. Marcel and the others are mourning the dead and preparing to burn the bodies, and it was really sad. Diego was the one like helping with that and like covering everybody with a sheet and putting alcohol on them, and it was a lot. A lot of people died. Marcel tells Klaus that no matter what he does, he's never gonna have the loyalty that Marcel has with his men because that's something that you have to earn. You can't like compel that or force it. He knows that Klaus is never gonna be able to relax and be a good leader, so he's never gonna know what that feels like. And he's like, enjoy the kingdom. It's gonna be empty. Hayley begs Elijah to show her what ended up happening with Celeste because clearly it was important to him and he didn't get to show her like the full story because, you know, he went a little crazy and tried to kill her. So he does. He opens up to her again and shows her the memory of finding Celeste drowned in the same bathtub. And he is heartbroken, y'all. He just holds her and cries and he screams again. I was like, stop doing that. He blames himself for her death because he's like, I loved her so much that I left Klaus behind and he couldn't handle that, so he got rid of her. She doesn't understand why he forces himself to care and try to fix a family again and again that is so clearly broken. He says that he's got all of eternity to help Klaus find salvation, and if he abandons that task, what is he good for? She touches his hand, trying to be all sweet, and he's like, please don't do that. You've seen what happens. So they turn away from each other once again. Klaus is watching Elijah come home up in like the top stories of the house, and she's like, so which one of us are you gonna dagger since there's only one left? Elijah shows up right as Klaus is about to dagger her, and she immediately like runs behind Elijah and gets behind him for protection, and it was so sweet. He like steps in front of her to block her from Klaus, and I was like, everything about this means so much to me. Klaus thinks that all of this has been a big plan for Elijah to take over his place in the family. He goes on a rant about how the baby is his baby, but it's gonna grow up to call Elijah father because he's trying to move in on Hayley. And Rebekah is like, you're such a bitch. Oh my God, just shut up. We don't abandon you, okay? You drive us away because you're crazy. Klaus is like, okay, but I've been bowing down to Elijah for days now, trying to make it up to him that I daggered him. And I haven't said a damn thing about the fact that Rebekah is off sneaking around with Marcel, you know, the guy who stole our empire. He's crying at this point because that's what he does when he gets upset. He's an emotional crier. He says that he truly can't believe that after all of this, they thought that his intentions with the baby were anything but pure. So he's going home because he got his home back from Marcel. And as far as he's concerned, they can stay here at this plantation house together and rot. He gives Elijah back the dagger and just leaves. He storms downstairs where he finds Hayley sitting on the porch letting them have their family time. And he's like, you're coming with me, little wolf. And she's like, no. And he's like, even if you fight me, you're gonna lose. And so will anybody else who tries to stop you from getting into this car. And then he just opens the car door and like waits for her. We go to Cammy with Kieran again. She has figured out what the freaking note means. And it says Klaus Michelson, 1919. She took that note and then she did some Google searching and she found pictures from the paper from 1919 of Klaus and Marcel together. So we're in danger because now she's figuring things out about the vampires. We open this one up with Klaus at the head of the table with all of Marcel's men. He's making a toast about how amazing it is to be a vampire. He calls over staff and they start draining their blood. into glasses for everybody to drink. Marcel is super angry, but we see like a baby flashback of Rebekah convincing him to just play along and give Klaus what he wants. So at the table, he is like pretending and just faking it like he loves Klaus and he's eating up this speech and everything is good and normal. Diego is also super unnerved by the whole thing, but he is also playing along with Marcel, trying to like keep the peace. Klaus tells them that he wants them all to flourish together and grow as a family, and he promises once again that he had no intention of ever doing anything with the baby. In order to prove this, he tells them all to go werewolf hunting because he wants every werewolf killed so that no more hybrids can ever be made. We go over to Rebekah and Elijah at the governor's house where Klaus is having the entire house emptied out, like including their coffins. He's taking everything from them. Elijah leaves Rebekah behind because he wants to go check on Hayley because he's like, if he's feeling this vindictive against us, I want to make sure she's being treated nicely, which Klaus is being a little brat right now, so valid, but this kind of hurts Rebekah's feelings that once again he's leaving her. Klaus then tells Cammy about how he bit Elijah and left him in the swamp to suffer, and she's like, what is wrong with you? Like, oh my God. Marcel comes over. He somehow did not know that Klaus and Cammy were spending time together, and this is how he figures out that Klaus compelled Cammy to go out with him, and Klaus corrects this and is like, actually, I just told her to like give you another chance, but any feelings she had for you, those were real. I didn't compel those. This leads to Cammy kind of admitting that she found that photograph of them and she knows more than she's supposed to, and she's getting closer to breaking her compulsion. And Klaus is like, oh, okay, sweetie. And then he compels her to forget about the photograph, hoping that this will stop her from searching for them. Diego catches Hayley trying to sneak out of the compound, but then Elijah shows up with Rebekah and they like subdue everybody and go to break her out. But she tells them that she's actually safe and they don't need to worry about her. Klaus is not hurting her, but they do need to help her keep the werewolves from being slaughtered because that hunt is starting today. Marcel warns Klaus that he's not going to get anything from the humans by pushing them too hard because he's still being kind of mean and scary with them and it's not leading to anything good. Klaus then spills all his secrets about Thierry and Cammy and Josh so that they're on equal footing going forward. He wants to move Davina into the compound with them so they can like all be together. And Marcel is like, oh, I actually already tried that and she can't leave the attic. And Klaus is like, ooh, one more thing to add to my list of stuff we did to you. Elijah lied. And that was actually him. He made a deal with Davina. She was lying to you. Sorry. Cammy goes home to her apartment and she finds all these little sticky notes that she's left for herself. They basically say like, don't listen to Klaus, don't trust him, look into your bag, play the recording. And she finds that she recorded her meeting with Klaus, and so now she has like herself on tape talking about vampires. So she's like, what is going on? Marcel and Klaus go to get Davina together. Klaus tries to bond with her over the fact that they're both artists, which was kind of cute. And then Marcel promises that he only wants to keep her safe, and she's safest with the vampires, so she is gonna have to come with them whether she wants to or not. Father Kieran holds the meeting between the human faction and Klaus so they can like talk about the fact that leadership has changed. And the mayor is a big idiot and he ruins it and makes Klaus really angry, even though Father Kieran is just trying to keep the peace. So this leads to Klaus threatening to kill everyone. And he's basically just like, you're gonna do everything that I say because I'm the superior species, right? So you can have my scraps and you can be satisfied with them. Diego and the others go after the werewolves and Rebekah and Elijah are there and they stop them from doing anything. Diego is like, bro, why do you even care about wolves? And Elijah is so cute. He's like, oh, normally I don't, but this particular clan is not to be touched. Goodbye. Elijah hears Eve out in the woods running, and so he like flashes to her and like saves her. Got this folded up bit of parchment and she's like, I have something I think your family's gonna want to see. Marcel gives Klaus shit about being mean to the humans, and he's like, I warned you They're not gonna handle that well. Like, you can't treat them like shit, all right? They're kind of crazy. Then Klaus gets a phone call, and the mayor is like, hi, we've considered your terms and we now have our answer. And then the freaking windows in the place where Marcel and Klaus are at blow out, and the freaking Nightwalkers start catching on fire because sunlight comes into the room. And someone shoots Klaus and Marcel. Now, obviously, Klaus will be fine getting shot, but when I tell you he dives for Marcel and rolls him over frantically, trying to see if Marcel has been fatally wounded, he was so scared he was shaking in his boots. Marcel is pissed because now even more of his men have been killed, and Klaus just doesn't care because he just uses everybody like pawns, but that's not how Marcel feels about them. He genuinely cares about his people. Except Klaus does care. So now the boys are gonna go murder all the humans. Eve warns Elijah that all the werewolves are currently like flocking to the bayou because they don't know that the vampires are now hunting them again. They just want to see Hayley and the miracle baby and like see if it's true. Davina finds Josh hiding out in the garage of the compound because he's really afraid that Klaus or Marcel or both of them is gonna turn on him. And they hug when they see each other. They have such a cute friendship. It's definitely giving sibling core. And at this point, I was like, damn, I think I really like Josh. He's growing on me. I know we won't keep him forever. But I'm getting attached, and I know it's a mistake. I shouldn't do it, and here I am doing it anyway. Hayley shows up, and Davina's like, oh, you must be Klaus's wife. And Hayley's like, gag me, absolutely not. Cammy calls Kieran, and he comes over to find her just losing her shit in her apartment. Like, she is cracked out of her mind. It is not going well. But then he gets another phone call while he's with her talking about the humans attacking the vampires. And he's like, shit, I have to go handle this, because he knows that Klaus is not going to handle this well and will probably be starting a war. And the humans are not prepared. Like, they think they're prepared, but they're not. They all end up in like a war room style meeting, and he's like, why did you attack them without telling me? And they're like, because we knew you wouldn't want us to do it and we wanted to. You don't have the authority to just call a meeting like this for no reason. Don't do that. This could have been an email. And Kieran is like, bestie, I did not call this meeting. Yes, turns out that Klaus called the meeting, so he strolls in and everyone's in danger. He says that he certainly learned his lesson when it comes to trying to work with them. And then Marcel quickly runs in and stabs the mayor in the neck, and then they just start killing all of the faction human members. So Kieran is the last one standing, and Klaus comes up to him and he's like, oh my god, I heard what happened. All of these people, they died in a boating explosion. That's so sad. But Marcel comes over and he's like, wait, hold, we shouldn't do that. Kieran's really smart. He's a good guy. We can trust him. Also, he's Cammy's uncle. Don't do that. And Klaus is like, you're right. So they basically like task him with making a new faction and picking new people and restarting it with humans that will actually like work with Klaus and understand that he's unhinged. Elijah and Rebekah go to one of the wolf camps, but it's empty. Like, he straight just strolls into the first RV that they see, no fear. I love him so much. He's so unbothered by everything. He's so strong. Then the vampires come like racing in, and a wolf that they've like trapped is like in the front of the pack, and they like throw him to the ground. Elijah steps in and stops Diego. He actually like grabs him, and he's like got him by the throat, and he's like, darling, we have to stop meeting like this. This is how rumors start. He tells them to go, and initially Diego and the others are kind of like, what if we don't want to? And he's like, I'm sorry, maybe I wasn't being clear. I am threatening you. You've got 3 minutes, and then you all become the prey. Okay, cool. The guy they saved has a necklace that's like a silver ring on a chain, and Elijah like plucks it up and is like, bestie, who are you and why do you have this? Marcel and Klaus talk again, and Klaus makes it clear that he has no intention of ever treating his child the way that Marcel and Klaus themselves were treated. And Marcel is like, it's not that I don't believe you, it's just that you have been lying and doing so much bullshit since you came into town. And Klaus is like, yeah, it turns out I was jealous. I'm literally always jealous. I have a big problem with jealousy, but I am working on it. Marcel is like, you are the one who taught me that we define ourselves, and yet you somehow have the worst self-esteem of anybody I've ever seen in my entire life. Klaus says that Marcel is right and the people love him. So if they're going to succeed, they're going to have to work together. And he wants them to rule as a unit, as friends and brothers. So, okay, now we got two kings. Hayley confronts Klaus about how hateful it was to send the vampires after all the werewolves, and he's like, I don't know why you don't see that killing all of them keeps you and the baby safe. But he also won't tell her what his plan is for when the baby actually comes, what's gonna happen to her once the baby's born. She promises to make him pay for this, and since she's currently in the family and under their protection, he can't do anything about it. Hayley then goes to Davina and is like, by the way, babe, Agnes is dead, which means that Marcel has been lying to her because technically Agnes was the only elder, and the elders are the only ones who can perform the rituals. So if Agnes is dead, isn't Davina safe now? Because the rituals can't be completed, which means she's good to go. She doesn't need to be with Marcel anymore. Davina doesn't believe her right away because she's like, the only reason why you're even telling me this is because you must want something, right? And Hayley's like, technically, yes, I would love it if you could figure out how to get the curse off of my family members so that they don't have to only be humans on the full moon. But also, maybe I'm just nice and I wanted to tell you. Josh shows up. He brought her the missing violin. She had not given it back to her little boyfriend yet. And now Josh is in the house, moving around the compound, and Klaus is there. You're in danger, baby, go home. He confirms that Agnes is dead. He did not realize that this was connected to Davina in any way, so he hadn't told her because he didn't think it mattered. This confirms for her that Marcel was lying, so she's like, Josh, I need you to do something for me. Get me out of this house. And he's like, I can do that, but where are you gonna go? And she's like, oh, you're right, I don't have any friends. Klaus is waiting for Rebekah and Elijah when they come back home to the governor's house. Elijah gives him the ring, and it's freaking Esther's ring, their mom. It's their mother's ring. Turns out, okay, that werewolf said that his clan has a legend about a baby werewolf being turned into a vampire and becoming the original hybrid, meaning that Klaus's secret dad is from this ancient pack, which is why Esther's ring is now with them. So that also means that Elijah and Rebekah saved Klaus's blood family from being murdered. Klaus is just even more upset though, because he's like, now I have more family to deal with? No. I know I always say I want family, but I simply don't have the energy for it today. He goes straight to Kieran though, and is like, I need help protecting the wolves. He exhausts me. In exchange, Kieran is like, sure thing, make Cammy leave town. It's time. So Klaus runs off to Cammy now and finds her once again going after her notes, trying to put the pieces together. She asks him to stop hiding and show her who he really is because she keeps getting really close, and he almost lets her in, and then he freaks out and pushes her away, and he's like, yes, because you simply cannot handle it. She insists though, so he gives her a little memory montage of the first time he turned into a werewolf and how scary it was and how Michael said he was a monster and Elijah was like, I just want to protect him, oh my god. And seeing him with the abusive dad and the complicated family dynamics works for her. She's just like me. She's suddenly so upset for him. And the second she starts showing an ounce of pity and empathy for what he went through and saying he didn't deserve it and things could have been different for him, he starts crying and then compels her to leave town. Because if he feels 1 ounce of emotion, he just runs the other way, kicking and screaming. Rebekah and Marcel meet again in secret. They've still been seeing each other, but they're just trying to keep it from Klaus. He says that they have to stop because he's afraid that if they get caught, Klaus is just going to take it out on both of them. And so Rebekah is like, oh, I see. You are once again choosing him over me. Excellent news. I knew this was going to happen. Turns out, though, something big and terrible happened in 1919, and Rebekah and Marcel seem to be the only two that know about it. And she says that whatever it was would make Klaus hate Marcel forever, so he needs to be real careful with how he treats her. Elijah visits Hayley one more time and tells her that all the wolves are safe. She gets so happy she hugs him, and they almost kiss before he runs away again. He doesn't leave though, he just goes downstairs and meets with Klaus, and he tells him that it was wrong to assume that he wanted to harm the baby in any way, and he is really sorry, but Klaus makes it pretty hard to love him and trust him. Klaus accepts the apology and he says, when you're ready, should you be so inclined, you and Rebekah are both welcome to join me here. And Elijah's like, yes, it worked. Cammy is packing up to leave, like following Klaus's orders, when Davina shows up at her apartment asking for help. She's like, I don't have anywhere else to go. Can you please help me? She realizes that Cammy's been compelled and she's like, I'm sorry, I can fix you, but this is really gonna hurt. And then she just starts removing the compulsion, and the last thing we see is Cammy grabbing her head and screaming in pain. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's video. If you did, don't forget to like and comment down below. I love talking to y'all each week. I'm having so much fun with this show. It's so fun. It's so different from TVD. I like that there's less people. I know we just like added Josh and everything. I don't know though. I just like that we seem to be focusing more on the main group. I'm enjoying it. Also, do we have any Bridgerton people out there? Because we just got the season 3 trailer, at least the part 1 season 3 trailer. I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm so excited. If you guys want to connect anywhere else, I do have my TikToks linked down below. That's where I'm most active outside of YouTube. I have one that's kind of like my fandom interest lifestyle one, and then I have a writing one specifically that may interest you if you guys want to know about my work in progress, okay? I think you're gonna like it. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you so soon. Have a good one. Bye.